I think, preparation for the protection of the yuan. They've said we will open gold vaults outside China. This is a completely new departure. And so far as I understand it, they've said they're opening one in Hong Kong and they're opening one in Saudi Arabia. Why Saudi Arabia? Because that's their biggest oil supply. They would only do that if, let's say, the dollar got into a situation where it was really collapsing and it was threatening to take down the yuan. Now, at that stage, they probably would make a declaration as to how much gold they've got stashed around the People's Liberation Army. I mean, I'm told they've got quite a lot, if you like. The youth wing of the Communist Party. I mean, you've got all these separate accounts where gold has been accumulating. So they could well turn round, if you like, under those circumstances. But I think until then, I mean, China's approach is not to go and upset everybody. It's just let everybody else make the mistakes. And then we've just got to defend ourselves from the fallout of everybody else's errors. And that's really their whole approach. And, well, I mean, you're based in Singapore, and I'm sure you sort of get the feeling that they've got this sort of almost Confucian approach. We've been around a long time, and we don't remain being around for a long time by taking hasty actions. It's not the Chinese way of doing it. I think one way to sum it up is that China really does control the physical gold market, and I think she's seeking to control the paper market as well, or take the control, if you like, away from the West. And there are very good reasons for doing this. And it's a policy which has just accelerated recently because her response to American trade sanctions has been very much to take the view, right, well, as I said, we've got to protect ourselves. It's really what they're saying. And so they've accelerated, trade relations and all the rest of it, diplomatic relations around the ASEAN nations, of which I think Singapore is one. They've said, and this is really, I think, preparation for the protection of the yuan. They've said we will open gold vaults outside China. This is a completely new departure. And so far as I understand it, they've said they're opening one in Hong Kong and they're opening one in Saudi Arabia. Why Saudi Arabia? Because that's their biggest oil supply. So, and I actually think it's demanded by the Saudis as well. So you can see that this is sort of going into place. Now, when it comes to the paper markets, they've also opened up the Shanghai Futures Exchange to foreign institutions. And that was announced, a couple of weeks ago. And it's not just gold and silver, it's also all metals. So that, a foreign bank, like, say, JP Morgan or whatever, doesn't have to set up a Chinese entity in order to deal on the futures exchange. It can deal direct. Just as a Chinese bank can deal direct through Globex on COMEX. So, these are very, very important steps. It gets very little commentary, if you like, in the public arena, but I believe these are extremely important steps, and it shows a desire by the Chinese to get control over the gold market. And why do they want to do that? They want to do that to protect their own currency, because China knows that real money, as opposed to credit, is gold. And if you're going to have a fiat currency problem, then you have got to be able to protect the purchasing power of your currency by linking it to gold. Now, I think, initially anyway, really what China's looking at is looking at it from the point of view of a firm yuan for trade purposes, because obviously you've got, you've got a domestic yuan, you've got an external yuan, as it were, you've got exchange controls. So this is really something which is aimed, if you like, at protecting her position in her overseas markets being the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and also BRICS. And the reason for doing this is really, I think quite simple. She can also see that as the dollar goes down, there's got to be a currency which replaces it for BRICS trading. And the idea that you can accept other currencies, I mean, come on, they'll go down with the dollar. And in any event, a lot of these currencies are pretty, you wouldn't want them anyway. I mean, would you really want Turkish lira, for example? I think the answer is no. Would you want, Iranian rial? I think the answer is no. So you can see that, there is a need for a currency common, if you like, to what's called the global South and Asia. And China is looking to provide it. At the moment, just providing it for non-domestic transactions to, if you like, guarantee her trade position. But I think if she does that with her overseas current, her external interests, then I think it will also help provide stability to the domestic currency. If it doesn't, then they'd have to sort of think about, extending gold protection to that currency. But it's all going to depend on what happens to the dollar. Yes, I think that's the initial stage. That's how I would see it anyway. I mean, if I was advising the Chinese government, not that they need any advice from me, then that's the way I would look at it. And I think that's the way they are looking at it. Well, we never use it as a currency. I mean, this is the point. I mean, people like gold bugs and also people like Bitcoin aficionados and all the rest of it, sort of don't understand that actually we do all our business in credit. I mean, it's as simple as that. If let's just say I buy something from you, I pay you out of my bank account. It comes out of a deposit, if you see what I mean. So on that basis, we never deal with each other in gold. I mean, only as a last resort would I actually part with gold to buy something from you. I mean, you might say, yeah, I'd love to have your gold, but I'm going to hang on to it. And, and also this is a big, big fault of which the Bitcoin people just don't understand. They seem to think that you're going to trade, you're going to go and buy, I don't know, packets of cigarettes or dinner or whatever in Bitcoin or fractions of Bitcoin. No, you don't. That's not the way it works. Basically, the way it works is you will buy it in credit attached to Bitcoin. Your question really is, do you want to have credit attached to Bitcoin or gold? You want stability. You don't want something that's going up and up and up and up. Do you see what I mean? Gold is stable.
Yes.
While the price is rising, actually, that's not what's happening. It's the purchasing power of currencies going down. And this is the key thing, which I don't think anybody really grasps. Well, you're right about DXY. I mean, if you look at the chart, it's terrible. It's heading towards 90 and may not stop there. I mean, it really does look bad. So, the dollar is not good. Now, where it goes from there, I don't know, because remember, if the dollar really does start falling, it's going to undermine all the other currencies as well. The foreigners just got too much in the way of dollars. I mean, they own nearly $40 trillion and underlying financial instruments. It's too much. Now, if you get a contraction in global trade, which is inevitably the consequence of Trump's tariffs, then, anyone who's got dollars has got too many of them. So purely on a commercial basis, there will be sellers. And then you've got the geopolitics like China and all the rest of them who are trying to move away from the dollar. And then, of course, you've got even portfolios. I mean, because I released an article today, I mean, $17.6 trillion is the current valuation of overseas holdings of US equities. 17.6 trillion. I mean, just think of that. That is more than half the total of US GDP. Are they going to hang around once it's clear there's a bear market going on? So what drives the bear market? Well, the thing that drives the bear market is as the US economy underperforms, and certainly performs less than the 4.5% yield, let us say, on the in terms of growth on the US 10-year Treasury, then by definition the US is in a debt trap because it cannot service its debt. So what does that mean? It means that foreigners are going to continue to sell out of US treasuries, US financial assets, whatever. And the only way in which that rot will be stopped is for yields to go even higher. And what does that do? It just makes the situation worse. The debt trap just gets worse. So we've got a situation really where, if this was a private sector enterprise, it's basically sliding into bankruptcy. And the first people to understand this are always the foreigners. I mean, the last people to understand it are the politicians. You can see that with Trump's behavior, the big, beautiful bill, adding God knows how much spending and budget deficit, if you like, to the whole thing. He's behaving as if this isn't a problem. He doesn't, if anybody says to him, look, we've got a problem because we've got too much debt, he'll probably turn around and say, well, if foreigners will buy dollars, they always need dollars,